Thanks, Jerry. It's great to be here this year back in Fremantle, and thanks to the RIU team for having me and being able to share the Alto story. It's been a big year for, 2022 was a big year for us. We've got a major resource update on the horizon pretty soon. I'm going to talk about that. And I think the three things I'd like you to get out of today's presentation. So drilling, there's a lot more drilling happening. We've got a big resource update happening. And also I think we're going to talk about some potential new discoveries that sort of some of the things we're working on. I'll just let you read the important notice in your own time. The whole presentation, the extended version of the presentation is actually on the platform, which has got a few slides in here which aren't in this presentation, just goes in a little bit more detail. So we're an advanced West Australian gold explorer. We're in the East Murchison of WA, 740 square kilometres covering the vast majority of the sandstone greenstone belt. Sandstone's had a long history of mining. It's already produced over 1.3 million ounces of gold. So it's a great spot to be, and we've got a really good big belt there. You can see the resource at the moment. We announced at the beginning of last year a 93% increase in our resource to 635,000 ounces at 1.6 grams per tonne. Those resources, importantly, are all optimised, so it's all open pittable, so it's open pittable gold. There's a number of high-grade hits that are outside that resource, and we undertook some sort of preliminary met work. We're getting up to 98% recoveries, so just demonstrating that it's going to be the gold can be liberated through a simple CIL process. So all the right things you want to see from an advanced explorer as it's growing its resources. We're well funded. We closed the capital raising in the last year. We've got 4.4 in the bank as of December, and we've got another big program underway, which will be starting in the next couple of weeks. So just quickly on the corporate side, share price is sitting at about 7.2 cents, market cap's about 44, and I said so EV of cash of 4.4, so an EV of about 40. I'd just like to highlight the share price chart down the bottom there. So obviously you can see we've been moving sideways for a little while. I think it's actually been holding up compared to a number of our peers very well, and I think it's very well primed for what we all expect to be a big kick up in the uptick in the gold price, and also with the resource update coming and some results we have coming through. Just quickly on the board, Mark Connolly, many of you will know Mark Connolly. Mark Connolly joined our board at the end of last year. So between myself, Mark and Richard Monty, we've got a big background in gold. We've been involved in a number of developments. We've also been involved corporately as well on maximising value for shareholders. The team supported by a couple of key consultants, Ed Boltus, many of you may know, ex-Goldfields, been involved in a number of discoveries along with Barry Bourne. So, we've got a really good team, in addition to my exploration manager and the in-house exploration team that sort of, they know what big discoveries look like, and that's the key thing you need when you're sort of exploring these big belts. So just quickly, so last year, as I said, it was a great year for us. We started off with a major resource update. During the year, we completed 50,000 metres of drilling. We'd planned to do 60, but we fell a bit short with COVID and a bit of weather. But we've really got a bit of an uptick in the amount of drilling we're doing, and we're finding by hitting these projects really hard is how you unlock that value. And as you can see there from some of the results, Lord Nelson, I'll talk about that shortly. We're getting some really thick, high-grade mineralisation at the Lords, and also Indomitable, which hasn't had any drilling really since about 2018, not at the level that we've hit it at. And we're getting some really high-grade, shallow gold there, so that's really exciting. As I said, update coming next month, and I'll talk about Arroyo as well, which is one of our regional targets, and we undertook a maiden sort of program at Arroyo, which is the first time it's had any drilling in about 15 years. So this is a key slide, and it sort of shows the pathway from our resource growth, and you'll see that those grey bars just highlight the drilling that we completed in 2021 and then 2022, and you'll see there's a major uptick. And I think what this is just demonstrating is our resources are just limited by drilling. The resources are open, they're open in all directions, they're open at depth, they'll keep going. And you'll see that inset slide there shows ounces per vertical metre. I mean, most of our resource sits above 190 metres. As I said, it's all within open pits. So we've put obviously some basic metrics around that. And it's a robust resource, and that's what we're sort of focusing on. It's sort of, we use $2,500 gold price, so it's below where gold's currently trading. So it's quite a conservative view, but it's certainly a robust resource from what we can see at the moment. And we're planning this year to sort of replicate that level of drilling as well. So again, hitting it hard because we want to keep driving this resource growth. Very quickly, so as you can see, the blue there, that's our tenement outline. It's 740 square kilometres, so it's a big project area covering the majority of that greenstone belted sandstone. We're surrounded by a number of operating mills, multi-million ounce deposits, so it's a great spot to be. Infrastructure is fantastic. You've got the sandstone, Agnew Sandstone, Mount Magnet Road that runs through the property. That's a steel road. You can fly out to the property on, charter flights, or there's commercial flights out to sort of Mount Magnet and Agnew, so it's a really easy spot to get to. And they're also building a gas pipeline down towards the southern end of that property as well. So there's certainly sort of a lot of supported by a lot of key infrastructure. So this is a zoom in on our property over the belt, and look, as I said, sandstone's had it's had mining history since the early 1900s, and it's a very well-known project. Everyone's got their favourite sort of property or target there, and there are multiple targets. There's historic mines, there's a number of undeveloped deposits, and there's some amazing structural targets. And sort of part of our challenge as a company has been how we prioritise all of those targets. Everyone's got a view. We've focused down in that southeast corner called the Alpha Domain, for two reasons. Firstly, well, that's where all our resources currently are, so it's a great place to start. Why would you leave gold to find gold? And the second part is, there's some really sort of structural complexity down there, which and that's what you want when you're looking for sort of big gold deposits. So here's a zoom in on that Alpha Domain. It's a 20-kilometre long gold corridor. It hosts all of our current resources, and it's really sort of broken into three key areas. You can see there. So this is Mag Interp. We've highlighted some of those key structures there, but you can see the rocks sort of on that eastern side, the Edale Shear. They're basically from the Lord's Corridor down there in the south east of the property. It's folding back up and creating that sort of 20-kilometre long corridor. And it hosts our entire resource base at the moment, basically between three camps: Lord's Camp, just over 400,000 ounces; Vanguard, which tripled at the beginning of the year from 50 to 150, and that's still open; and then Indomitable, that I'll talk about, that we've been drilling most of this year. So very quickly on the Lord's Corridor, it's a large granodiorite intrusion. It's punched up between mafic and ultramafic rocks. We're seeing a lot of that high grade on the eastern side of the granodiorite, where that contact is. And it hosts what was historically Lord Nelson mine, which was mined out from the oxide, and that fresh rock was left behind. We've grown that key deposit to over 260,000 ounces. The optimised pit is now 1.3 kilometres long. The mineralisation is still plunging to the south there, so we can see that's going to continue growing. Lord Henry down in the south, it's 100,000 ounces there. There's a lot of mineralisation, as you can see here, outside that current optimised pit shell to the west. And if you follow that tail all the way around, you've got Havilah and Meningamali, which we increased the resource on that. And then Havilah and Meningamali follow that corridor up to Vanguard. So Vanguard's part of that sort of 20k corridor. It's currently defined over 2 kilometres. Again, optimised pit shells around this. It's very shallow. The pit shells are only down to just over 100 metres. Vanguard North's very high grade. There's about 50,000 ounces there at just under 4 grams. And that's completely open along that sort of corridor to the northwest. So very exciting for us, and sort of something we struggled with not going back and revisiting this year, but we wanted to go and hit Indomitable, and I'll show you why. So this is Indomitable. So we're about 15 k's away from the Lords itself. So within that sort of key hub area that we're focusing on. And as you can see here, there's a couple of key structures running sort of northwest, and then sort of running sort of more so north-south. And it's intercut by the stratigraphy, which is some sort of banded iron formations, and you're getting around that, just around this area here. It's going to work, my laser. Great spot right there, sort of in that sort of fold closure around the nose. There's a lot of sort of broken up structural complexity there, and you're seeing a lot of that gold coming through. So, just want to jump. So this is how Indomitable looked at the beginning of the year. We hit Indomitable really hard. It's about 37,000 metres of drilling. And this is how Indomitable is looking now. So we've extended it. It's over 2.5 kilometres of mineralisation. You'll see down there in the southwest corner, Musketeer. We're going to put a maiden resource on Musketeer in the coming weeks. So there's obviously that's not currently included in the resource. Again, Indomitable East out there, there's no resource on that, and we're looking to put a maiden resource on on Indomitable East. And we focus a lot of our drilling on that gap between Indomitable and Indomitable North, given that there's two sort of small optimised pits on those, and we really wanted to try and consolidate that into one much larger pit, and we seem to have done that, which is looking pretty exciting from the drilling there. Wait to see with the resource coming out. And the other key thing is we undertook some big step-out holes, so it wasn't really just about lots of safe drilling to incrementally grow resources. I said these resources will continue to grow, but we did some big step-out, sort of 80, 100 metre, 160 metre step-out holes, and we've extended that mineralisation to the north further, over 500 metres. So a lot of that mineralisation won't come into this updated resource given the spacing, but it just demonstrates that this thing is getting a lot bigger. It's open in all directions. We had some amazing high-grade hits, 25 metres at 7 grams from 40, 80 metres at sort of 1.6 from 21 metres. So there's a lot of gold still left in that system. And this is looking at Indomitable through a long section here. I think the two things you'll highlight, you'll see those pit shells, which are the historic ones from 2018, based on $2,000 gold. You can see there's a lot of mineralisation outside of that. The other key thing is there's no real drilling below 200 metres, so this is still very, very shallow. We're looking at sort of like doing some deeper drilling to sort of target those high-grade structures. And in some areas, the oxidisation is down to 190 metres, which is great when you're sort of talking about mining, but where we are at the moment, it's pretty hard from a geology point of view. So it's certainly got some pros and cons, but sort of I can see, we can all see Indomitable potentially growing a lot bigger than it currently is. So very quickly, I wanted to talk on one of our regional targets, and I guess since I've been involved with the company, we've really been focusing on that alpha domain, not wanting to get distracted by all the other targets that are there. And we are in that enviable position that we've got some fantastic gold targets within the broader portfolio, and it has been a bit of a struggle. As I said, everyone's got their favourite. Why aren't you looking here? And this is just one example of, I guess, the quality of the projects within our portfolio. So Hacks and Arroyo are two historic mines. They were some of the highest grade gold mines in Australia at the time. They were both mined during the early 1900s. They both produced over 200,000 ounces at sort of 16 and 24 grams per tonne. So you can understand why a lot of people had the view that we should be going back and having a look at these. And it's certainly very tantalising. We've started to have a look now. We've got some more data. Initially, we've taken a much bigger picture point of view. So we're over on the sort of more so on the western side of the property. You've got the big UME shear running down the western side, and you'll see there both Hacks and Arroyo, two north-south striking reefs, you and me further to the west, and you've got this 4 kilometre, I guess, gap there. And so this image, we've just showed sort of max gold. We've overlaid some of the key structural interp, and all of that gold is a lot of the historical workings. I think for me, a couple of the key things that jump out from just this image is the complete lack of drilling in that area, and certainly the number of high-grade or sort of historical workings. And these guys would have been going down chasing bonanza gold, and there's a lot of what we see this is a potential new area. Not only looking at things like Arroyo and Hacks to sort of can we extend the mineralisation there, but can we find a repeat reef? As I said, sort of hasn't had a lot of drilling. We're in a different gold price environment. We can go and hit these things hard, and so that's going to be part of our regional side, which is quite exciting, but it's certainly not losing focus from the alpha domain. And here's an example of Arroyo. We've overlaid plan view, and you're looking at the open pit there, which Herald mined in the early 1900s. They put an open cut, went down to about 60 metres on top of the underground workings. But all of those drill results are all unmined. So they were drilled after the old timers went in there, and as I said, they were chasing that bonanza grade. But some of the remnant mineralisation is it's pretty exciting for us, and so you can see why it's been such a tantalising target to go and look at. We undertook a very small program at the end of last year, and we announced the results beginning of this week. It was only 2,000 metres, and it was really sort of to test a couple of geological models, how that mineralisation does extend further to the northwest, and we've confirmed that it does. There's the unmined Juno reef that sort of sits to the west there, sort of as that reef's dipping down, and then also sort of Arroyo West. There's a lot of targets to follow up, and we're planning on drilling that shortly. So how does 2023 look for Alto? A lot more drilling. We're unlocking the value of this, and it is happening through drilling. It's getting a lot of smart people in our camp, some new ideas coming through on how we can unlock this as rapidly as possible. I've got a major resource update coming out next month lot more drilling. The rig's going to be back on site. They'll either be, depending on permitting, we'll be going straight back to Arroya, or we're going up to follow up on some of those 25-metre hits at Indomitable, and then just more drilling throughout the whole year instead of a lot more news flow. So I think that's the key thing. I'm getting flashed at, Jerry, so I think I'm all done. Thank you.